this year was our most successful year ever. We helped, or we will here, we got 2 more cases to do, 50 farm families this year. And 200, thank you. So 50 farm families this year alone, and more than 250 farm families since our inception. Now that is no small undertaking, if I say so myself. Many of us wonder how we get one farm planted or harvested given the weather and the challenges that everyone faces, but to plant and harvest for 50 farm families in a geographical region of North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, and eastern Montana, let me tell you, that is no small feat. With volunteers coming from all over the nation and equipment, mobilizing that all around in those states, and the weather to contend with, it is sometimes a logistical nightmare, but we get it done thanks to our volunteers and sponsors and staff, obviously. Now, it was a very busy year this year, of course, not only in helping 50 farm families, but the weather was challenging this spring. It wouldn't quit raining toward the end of the spring, and then it appears the same way this fall here. We're having challenges getting finished up, of course, like everyone else. But make no mistake, the vast majority of the farm families that we help are still in North Dakota. I mean, I'd say 75% of them are in North Dakota. Now, like I said, we are very thankful for our volunteers. They commit a great deal of time. They come from all over the nation, and that equipment, RDO Equipment Company, sponsors for us, would not turn a wheel if it wasn't for the volunteers. And they give up time and finances it costs them. They make their own way here from as far away as New York State, Florida. We had volunteers come from this year, from every place from New Mexico to Georgia, Oregon, all over the nation, when I say literally. And then the staff has worked very hard this year, of course, and my board of directors give up of their time. The board of directors are volunteers just like myself. They do not receive any compensation, and many of them work in the field also. We do have board member expectations. They have to volunteer so many days per year and be an active part. They don't just come to a meeting and vote yay or nay. They're out in the field doing things, contributing financially to the organization. So I owe a lot to the board of directors. The organization does. So I'd like to give some recognition.
Sean Sitma, I'm a board member for the Farm Rescue Foundation, previously a journalist, and now just made the transition over into insurance. So that now is my day job, and hopefully will be for many years to come.
Levi Whalinga, I'm the foundation board member. I'm a locomotive engineer and conductor for BNSF in Sioux City.
My name is Jeff Larson. I'm a Farm Rescue board member. I currently work for Frontier Airlines out of Denver, Colorado, and family and I are from Minneapolis.
I'm Brian Mansky. I'm from Buffalo, Minnesota. My day job, I'm president of Citizens State Bank of Waverly and Montrose, which is right by Buffalo, Minnesota.
I'm Reuben Lichty from Jamestown, North Dakota, farm there, and have the privilege of seeing numerous volunteers who come by there with their trucks and machinery, and it's a real privilege. My other job is just to keep Bill straight.
Hi, my name's Sherry Schaefer. I'm from Greenville, Illinois. My day and night job is to run a publishing company, and I publish 2 tractor magazines, Oliver Heritage and Heritage Iron, and I'm the Vice President of Farm Rescue.
My name is Danielle Abbas. I'm the Marketing Communications Coordinator, and this is my day and night job.
I'm Shara Dutoit, the Office and Outreach Coordinator, and I'm from Fargo.
I'm Farron Wall, Regional Operations Manager for Farm Rescue based in Sioux Falls. I'm Carol Wheelinga, based in Sioux City, and I'm the Advanced Volunteer Coordinator.
They are very, very hardworking, to say the least, and it's the best team I have ever had. Carol, I'm going to go in inverse order here that spoke. Carol is a whiz. She's the wife of Levi, who did the welcome here and is also on our Farm Rescue Foundation Board of Directors. She is a whiz at putting together a logistical plan. Now, at UPS, we love logistics, but, you know, and so does Carol. Carol, I can tell her what needs to be done, and she puts together this plan of mobilizing volunteers and equipment all over, and it's usually the exact same thing what I would do the first time. So that's a good thing, I guess, better than what I could come up with. So thank you very much for that, Carol. And she also schedules our volunteers months in advance, kind of gets them coming down the pipeline so we don't have a shortage of volunteers. And I should mention that Carol has a CDL. She drives our semi-trucks. She runs the combine. She was just harvesting corn a couple weeks ago, but getting pretty close to a delivery date here. Had to stop that. But she runs the combines, the air seeders, everything, four-wheel drive tractors. So Levi and Carol are quite a team together, along with the, yes, thank you, Carol. And Farron out of Sioux Falls, he's been with us for a little over a year, Regional Operations Manager. He is really the liaison between the sponsors, the farmers, the volunteers, kind of does a little bit of everything and works long hours and has went above and beyond this year in making sure we help the 50 farm families were happy with what we did. So thank you, Farron. And your wife, Peggy. Shara is from the Fargo-Castleton area, and she's our newest member on the team. And she's our office and outreach coordinator. She does a wonderful job bringing the volunteers, the daily scheduling, everything you could think of administratively at the office. Danielle is from the Oskaloosa, Iowa area, and she does all our marketing and media communications. So she does our website design. Any of you have gone to our website? We have our brochures. She does an absolute fabulous job, young, energetic lady, and we're very thankful to have her on our team. Tonight we have 3 families here that we have assisted this year to tell you the story in their own words and their experience. I'd like to have Daryl and Marla DeGroat come up to the stage, please.
A farm rescue was a lifesaver for us. I had not heard of them. Darrell had in several magazines. But to tell our story, a year ago, February 14, 2012, Darrell had knee replacement surgery. And it went fine, but 3 weeks later, after we were home, he developed staph infection in it. So they opened him up and cleaned it out, and through several months of therapy, and so we had it all cleared up. Didn't have a problem until March 10 of 2013, a full year later. He went to bed. It was a Sunday night. I remember it very well. Went to bed. He was fine. Woke up about 2 o'clock with excruciating pain in that knee. So I helped him to the chair and went back to bed. Got up about 4 to go to the bathroom. He was burning up, and the staph had returned. He's had 6 back surgeries, so we had started for pain relief in January at Mayo Clinic. So I packed him up. He was getting septic in the process. So I packed him up and took him to Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. There, they assessed the situation. What they did, he went the next morning into surgery. They removed his knee, cleaned it all out, put spacers in, and put him in a cast, a full cast, for 10 weeks. Couldn't put any weight on it. His quad muscle had torn because of the staph infection. And we were sent home. What do we do? Like he said, it was a bad spring. It was rainy, it was wet. There was a tiny little window of a few days in there for planting. And what do we do? How do we get this done? Do we impose on our friends and family? What do we do? And a friend of mine is a volunteer for Farm Rescue, works at a radio station, called me up one day and said, Marla, here's this website, gave me the address. Look it up. I think you guys by far qualify for that. So I looked up Farm Rescue on the internet, filled out the application, easy application form. If I can fill it out, it's pretty easy. Filled it out, submitted it, and a few days later, Levi called and talked to Darrell, and I'll let him take over from there.
I have a little bit of trouble with balance yet, so bear with me if you could. Anyway, Jason Brown talked about encouraging other people to sign up or support, and if it hadn't been for, I don't think it hurts to say his name, Dan Bonema, if he hadn't called up and said, I think you have to apply for this, maybe we would have, maybe we wouldn't have. But that encouragement was really huge. That really helped us out. I mean, if it wouldn't have been for that, maybe we wouldn't have applied. It was such a blessing this spring. There was probably only like 3 days to plant, and we got one of those 3 days. Mostly got all our crops in, and we didn't have to impose on our neighbors and friends. It truly was a blessing. I didn't realize how big a blessing it really was until this fall when we were harvesting this amazing crop. We had really, really good crops, and it was just, and I realized I didn't till the soil, I didn't plant it. You know, basically it was all a gift from God. It was a gift, the volunteers were a gift from God, the rain and the sunshine and whatever was all a gift from God. So I give him the glory, and I'm really thankful for you people, especially Levi. He just took over, and it was kind of nice. We knew Levi from some church things, and
They'd grown up 4 miles down the road from Hall.
so we knew them, and he does do a fabulous job. Like Jason said, he knows the equipment in and out. He puts many, many hours in. And thank you, Levi and Carol, for everything you did. We really appreciate it.
Sorry. I want to add he's doing very well. He was on crutches for 5 months because of the torn quad muscle in his leg and stuff, but he's doing very well. He still has some residual effects with his balance and stuff, but he's doing very well. I said, nobody's going to recognize when we go tonight because no crutches.
I'm Amanda, and this is my husband, Sean, and our daughters, Kenley and Brecken. And you'll have to excuse me, I'm not a public speaker. We drove from Crosby today. We farm in the northwest corner of the state, and he's farmed for many years. On March 28th, it was still winter, we had a bunch of ice on our roof, which then caused a water leak into our living room. And of course, I was worried about the walls getting ruined, and we sent Sean up onto the roof to try to fix it, and unfortunately, the ladder slipped out from underneath him, and he fell 10 feet onto our cement driveway. We were taken to Minot, North Dakota, and then they flew us to Rochester, where they did surgeries to repair 2 broken legs. We were there for 10 days. And once we evaluated the situation and realized that he was going to be okay and the kids were taken care of, the thought popped into our head was, oh my goodness, Springs Work is just a couple weeks away, what are we going to do? We're lucky enough that we farm with Sean's dad, so we had somebody to run the equipment, but when you have 2 farm families, you have 2 farm families worth of work as well. It was my dad who is here today that suggested that we contact Farm Rescue. And also I work in a grain elevator in Crosby, where we've had a couple other families that have been assisted by Farm Rescue. So I was very familiar with it, and we encourage, when we have the poster, to donate a bushel in there. So we were approved right away And planting season started and there were many, many rain delays. And luckily, because we dried out for just a little bit and there were rain delays everywhere else, Pete and Charlie and Louie were able to come up and seed 600 acres of lentils for us. I cannot even describe the situation. They just came into our home. They were so grateful. They were so kind. Charlie would help Kenley up into the tractor, you know, tell her what he's doing, tell us stories. They were so caring. And Sean was able to, he was in a wheelchair for 4 months. Wasn't able to put any weight on either leg, but we did get him into the pickup and he just sat in the pickup all day out in the field watching them plant. I know I heard something earlier about a farmer's pride, and when something happens, you have to turn that pride into just even greater pride and accept help, because there really is nothing else like it. After the 4 months in a wheelchair, he started doing therapy. We travel back and forth to Rochester, and we're going back there now after we leave Bismarck to see what the next step is. But it just, him being able to recover, it makes you think of all the families that aren't so fortunate and they get the help, but they don't get the full recovery like that. And just a little thing, we'll switch. It is my daughter Kenley's 5th birthday today. So when the guys were out helping us, Charlie was telling us about the farm rescue banquet and that it was on November 1st. And for a 4-year-old at the time, a birthday party meant nothing to her. She's been so excited that she gets to spend her birthday at the farm rescue banquet and would get a chance to see Charlie and Pete and Louie again. And if an organization like this can impact a 4-year-old that much, it just goes to show what they do for people. So we just can't thank the sponsors, the volunteers, farm rescue, everything. It's meant the world to us.
I got a quick little story about, we met Charlie right outside of Crosby at the hotel, and we visited for a little bit. Then the tractor and the drill came by, and we sat there, I suppose 10, 15 minutes later, and thought, well, we better go catch up to them, show them where they're going. Well, they didn't make it probably a quarter mile, half mile down the road, and they were sitting in the ditch with a flat tire. I thought, well, my luck is starting to rub off on them. But they got her done, and I really appreciate it, and I thank all the sponsors and everybody that donates to this. It means a lot.
Thank you for helping my daddy.
Hi, we're Travis and Mandy Tallerud from Pelican Rapids, as Bill said. I guess this winter, January 7th, we milk cows, doing chores, normal routine morning, and went to start the tractor on the bale processor, and it didn't start, and started every day. Literally the week before, it had started every other day. And so I crossed the solenoid as I'd done numerous times that week. Standing out of the way if the tractor would have, I checked to make sure it was a neutral. Standing out of the way if the tractor would have taken off, I was safe. It would have driven into a vehicle, but it would have missed me. So the tractor started. It was running for probably 45 seconds, a minute, fair amount of time. And I walked around the other side. I was on the right side of the tractor. I was going to walk around to the left side, and I didn't see it, but I guess I heard the hydraulic pump kick in, and tractor took off in road gear and pinched me against a pickup that was parked about 3 feet in front of it, and pushed about 25 feet and popped into neutral. It actually caught on another tractor parked next to it, and I had my cell phone in my pocket and called the ambulance and help, and anyway, everything turned out as good as we could have hoped for. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks, and broken pelvis and fractured vertebrae and torn bladder and a couple other minor things. And I guess I had heard about farm rescue over the years several times. I always read an article about them or something if it was in a magazine or wherever, various places. Never thought of it or anything after my accident, and I think they actually called Mandy. They contacted her when I was still in the hospital. So I remember we were talking about it, driving back and forth to the hospital one time. And I guess my initial response was, no, we don't need help. There's others that need it worse. This was January. Wasn't worried about putting in a crop. We milked cows. Was worried about that stuff. Figured I'd be fine by spring's work. That was 4 months away or whatever. And so I don't know. Do we even call back? Probably not.
Not right away.
And then I don't know when it was. I don't even remember. But after another doctor appointment or something, it's kind of told I wouldn't be coming along as fast as I'd hoped. And at that point, then we did call Farm Rescue, right, and started the conversation, and still didn't know if I would apply or not. Figured there were others that needed help worse than we did, and didn't want to take it away from somebody else that needed it worse. And Bill kind of lectured me or let me let me know that it was up to the board to decide and just apply. And if no one applies, the organization doesn't exist either. And eventually, I did end up applying, and very simple to fill out the application, and we were approved. And the way the spring turned out with the weather, we farmed with my dad and brother, but they were maxed out work-wise anyway. And my brother worked as hard as he was able to, but he's got some health issues and limitations too. And with the weather and the coordinating, it was a very difficult spring for them to coordinate everything. And they did a great job with that. And finally, actually when the planter did get there, I think it rained for 2 or 3 more days. And finally, June 7th or 8th, it dried out enough to get it done. And without Farm Rescue's help, we would not have gotten it in. June 10th was the deadline for soybeans, and we wouldn't have made it. So appreciate all the help, and it was nice meeting the different volunteers and hearing their story. And Ken drove the planter, and Levi and Carol and Joe was there. And it's interesting hearing Ken's story. I believe he was from, is it Kentucky? Is that right? And he milked cows for a living and had retired. And just interesting hearing his story and the different stories from people that are in the same thing. They're farming and same thing, but they're half a country away. And it was interesting hearing all that, and appreciate all the volunteers and all the sponsorship and everything that make it go. It's really a great organization, and just say thank you to everybody, and let Mandy add some stuff.
I just want to say a big thank you to Farm Rescue. You really, really helped us out, and thank you for whoever convinced my husband to finally apply and do it. And I was trying to do that, but I think for farmers it's hard to accept help. But I'm really, really grateful for all the volunteers, Farm Rescue. It's a great organization. Thank you very, very much.
In addition to the people in the field, the volunteers, and the hands-on operation, let me say, it takes sponsorships, both in the terms of funding and equipment. And everyone has a role to play, and everyone does their part. As virtually everyone knows, RDO Equipment Company provides all the farming equipment for Farm Rescue. They sponsor that equipment, no strings attached. They provide all the tractors, the air seeders, the corn planters, combines, combine headers, soybean headers, corn headers, header trailers, and the support to keep that equipment moving. Now that is no small contribution to helping farm families and rural communities. And we are very, very thankful for RDO Equipment Company sponsoring that equipment, as well as that has been echoed from every farm family we've been to that say the same thing. The support that they provide, not only in the equipment, but in the service of the equipment, they keep us moving in the field. When you're planting or harvesting for 50 farm families in a 4 or 5 state area, it takes some support to keep that equipment moving. And that's done behind the scenes. If we need any service, which isn't often, the equipment, they give us top-notch new equipment, runs virtually flawlessly. Usually if something breaks, it's just something that couldn't happen, a rock in the field or something. But they have someone there pronto to, immediately when we call to fix that and get us going again. And we value that very much because it is a reflection upon our sponsors. It's a reflection upon the organization as a whole to keep our promise of helping farm families. When we say we're going to help you, we're going to help you. And we keep our word, and that's what RDO Equipment Company does also. They do what they say they're going to do, and they keep their promises. And we're very thankful. Now, I can say with complete confidence that RDO Equipment Company fully supports our mission at Farm Rescue. Everyone from the top level management to the service technician that comes to the field, they are wonderful people. They are very enjoyable to work with. We've always had pleasant experiences with them, and they've always done a good job, and we value that a great deal. It's a very good partnership, if you want to call it, of helping farm families. And I can say also many of their employees that have come out and done service or volunteered, many of their employees have volunteered also outside of their job. And they echo the words that they are very, very proud that they are working for a company, RDO Equipment Company, that helps farm families, and that they are the exclusive farm equipment sponsor. And it's a very unique thing, and they're all proud of it. They feel like they're not only part of a team at RDO Equipment Company, but they are part of a bigger cause helping farm families, and proud to contribute to it in whatever way they can, also just supporting us at Farm Rescue to keep the equipment moving. So thank you. Thank you. And so tonight we have the honor of having the CEO of RDO Equipment Company here to speak. And so if you would please welcome Christy Offit.
Well, good evening. Thank you, Bill, for inviting me to attend and speak at the banquet. It's an honor to be a part of this event and to see all the people who are part of Farm Rescue, as well as many of those who have been impacted by the organization's great work. I very much appreciated hearing the 3 family farm stories, and thank you for sharing your story. I want to take a moment and give a very special thank you to those in the room who have given your most precious asset, your time, to others in need. It's comforting to know there are many people like you who are willing to truly serve your neighbors, and I thank you so much for doing that. Everyone at RDO Equipment believes in the mission of Farm Rescue. It's about helping people through a crisis so they can get back to their farming operations. We at RDO wholeheartedly support this, and we're very proud to be the exclusive equipment provider for Farm Rescue's operations. During the 2013 planting season, RDO Equipment provided Farm Rescue with $1.8 million in machinery, including 3 complete John Deere precision product systems that allow Farm Rescue to increase their speed, efficiency, and productivity. That might have been a little commercial there. And then during the 2013 harvest season, RDO Equipment provided another $1 million in harvest equipment. In all, over $3 million of machinery and RDO equipment support are provided to assist farm rescue in supporting farmers in need. But that machinery does not do any good without the people who step up to operate it. To best support the farm rescue staff and volunteers before planting and harvesting, we provide training on all machinery to ensure that machines operate at optimum levels of performance and safety. We also support the volunteer process by giving each RDO equipment employee 8 hours of paid time each year. Each person can choose to donate this time to a community service or charitable organization, and many have selected farm rescue events and farm cases. We are indeed proud partners with Farm Rescue and are happy to provide the support that we do. Very recently, the work of the organization hit very close to home, home being the RDO team member family. A couple of weeks ago, Farm Rescue received a call from a farmer in Enderlin, North Dakota, who was going through some difficulty. 2013 was a long, difficult year for Bill Lemna and his children Christopher, Jessica, and Erica. In January, the family lost Bill's wife and the children's mother, Kelly, to Lou Gehrig's disease. While the pain of that loss was still fresh, Bill was diagnosed with cancer. Their family farming operation was effectively put on hold, with the family concentrating their efforts on ensuring Bill had all the support he needed as he began his battle. When the time came to harvest the soybeans, Bill was scheduled to be in Rochester for another treatment. His children reached out to Farm Rescue. Here's where the story gets personal. One of our longtime team members at RDO Equipment is Director of Customer Support, Jeff Lemna, Bill's brother. Jeff didn't know that the family had contacted Farm Rescue until he received a phone call from Bill Gross asking for help in getting volunteer operators for a farm in Enderlin. At the time, Jeff was on his way to Rochester to be with Bill during his treatment. He reached out to everyone he knew and helped secure operators for the job. Jeff said, quote, "All I had to do was send out a simple email and the volunteers poured in. I was able to keep Bill informed what was happening so he didn't have to worry about things back at home." That was just 2 weeks ago. Even though the weather wasn't the best for the work, the team got the job done, and Bill was able to go through his treatment without having to worry about his harvest. Jeff tells me his prognosis is pretty good. This story is a great example of how Farm Rescue works to build bridges across those gaps in someone's life that's caused by a crisis. By providing that little bit of assistance at the right time, we truly fulfill the mission at Farm Rescue. Stories like this happen every planting and harvest season, and they are why all of us are committed to this organization. RDO Equipment is so proud to have a part in the great work that Farm Rescue has accomplished, and we look forward to being with you in the future. Thank you so much.
I'd like to say just a few more words about the very special group of folks among us tonight who are the volunteers for Farm Rescue. Many of you sitting here with us tonight are volunteers, and if you go back a few years to when Bill founded Farm Rescue, he knew from the initial concept that the only way you could pencil something that he was creating here, which is a very unique thing, was to start with labor that would have to be volunteer. If you think it through, the hundreds and thousands, frankly, of hours that are put in a year in the field alone, structured this way, there'd be no way to hire staff to do that. He knew it would have to be staffed by volunteers. As the organization was founded and unrolled that first year, and that turned into year 2 and 3, the call, so to speak, went out, and as word spread around the country about Farm Rescue, many answered the call, and people continue to answer the call. Many of you are sitting here tonight. Bill touched on this earlier, the vast geography that is accounted for by the volunteers we work with and have the great honor of getting to know at Farm Rescue. As an operations manager, I can tell you just in the last 2 weeks, I have personally either worked with or been a part of bringing to the operation folks from the states we've operated in those weeks, which just in the last 2 weeks have included both Dakotas and Iowa. We've also been in Minnesota, of course, recently. Not only folks from those states, but just in the past 2 weeks, I've personally encountered as well Illinois, New York State, Georgia, Kentucky, New Mexico, and Oregon. And that's just in the last 2 weeks. That's really amazing if you think about that. That's absolutely fabulous that folks come from that far away strictly as volunteers. There's no compensation for this. And they put in time simply to help farm families and keep them out there so they're healthy and moving along again next year. It doesn't matter if you come from a long ways away or if you come from across the road. Your services as a volunteer to us are deeply valuable. My point here is whether you're local, whether you come from a long ways away, whether you operate a combine, or whether you move a pickup 300 miles for us, we can't get any of it done without you. So when we tell you from Farm Rescue, thank you from the bottom of our hearts, please know we mean that in the deepest possible way. You, the volunteer, are truly the skeletal structure of Farm Rescue, and without you, we don't exist. So thank you so much, every one of you. And with that, I'd like to ask all of you who are here tonight who are volunteers, whether you volunteered this year, whether you volunteered at any time in the past, I'd like to ask you to step up here to the stage so we can recognize you. Don't be shy. There are a lot of you here. You won't be up here by yourself. So if you are a volunteer, have volunteered with us, please come on up and join us for just a couple minutes.
Sean Sitma from Minot, North Dakota. I volunteered behind the scenes for a couple of years, starting back in 2006, doing public service announcements, video work, and things like that. They put me in the tractor in 2008, and I got to do some combining again last year, but have been involved behind the scenes since 2006.
Warren Zakapiko from Keefe, North Dakota, 7 years.
Gary Keller, Fargo, North Dakota. This is my first year.
Jim Wall from Fulton, South Dakota. This is my first year.
Vicki Wall, Fulton, near Mitchell. This is our first year.
Carol Wheelinga, Sioux City, Iowa. This is our third year.
Levi Wheelinga, Sioux City, Iowa, third year.
Charlie Barch, Minot, 6 years.
Rod Eckroth from Bismarck. This is my second year.
Clarence Coos from Jamestown. This is my 6th year.
Gary Deckert from Bismarck. This is my 2nd year.
Dale Lampfair from Canajoharie, New York. This is my 3rd year.
Kenneth Kyle from Bowling Green, Kentucky. I'm not even sure. I think it's the 2nd or 3rd year.
You're having so much fun.
Jay Shep from Bismarck. It's my 4th year.
Ted Smith from Flandreau, South Dakota, and this is my 3rd year.
Jack Rutledge, Peachtree City, Georgia, 2 years.
Christina Larson from Minneapolis, 4th year.
And Jeff Larson, Minneapolis as well, 4th year.
Gene Spitzke from Keefe, North Dakota, 7 years.
Mark Baumgarten from Bettendorf, Iowa, 1st year.
Ryan Hankey from Hanover, North Dakota, 1st year.
And Brian Mansky, Buffalo, Minnesota, 2nd year.
Charlie Hardy, Wapaton, 6 years.
Randy Weaver from Louisville, Kentucky, and 6 years.
Bill Weaver from Knox, Pennsylvania, 6 years.
Dick Weaver from Mars, Pennsylvania, 6 years.
Joe Detlefson from Oaks. I thought I retired, but I got called this year. But I started in '06, the original. 3 gruesome boys.
Rick Schaff, Devil's Lake, North Dakota, 2 years.
And that's just one fine sampling of what makes Farm Rescue go. Please give them a hand.
Now, I don't often have the pleasure of having some of my co-workers here at the banquet, and I do tonight. So many of you know that I fly for UPS Airlines. Very proud to work for UPS. UPS is a great, great company to work for. I've worked for them for 20 years now, and And I've seen a lot of the world, flying literally to every place from Sydney, Australia, to Dubai, to Hong Kong, to Germany, and to Des Moines, Iowa, and wherever, all around, domestically and internationally. It's been truly a privilege, and I'm thankful to be working for UPS. And they are a company that if anyone knows or has worked for them, they do run the tightest ship in the shipping business, and they expect a lot out of their employees. You're expected to work hard, but they compensate and treat you well and have good benefits. And I always like to think that they squeeze about 10% more productivity out of employees than other companies do, but you know, that's fine with me. And I think that's fine with most employees, knowing that we have a stable, financially secure company that provides an excellent, amazing service. I always run into people that say, I find it just amazing that you can pick up a package in Dubai or Cologne, and it's you know, it's there the next day or such, and how they keep track of the millions of packages that go around the world. And it is truly amazing that it just happens. It doesn't just happen. I mean, there's a lot behind the scenes, but I mean, it is amazing. It truly is amazing. Even after working there 20 years, I am amazed at the sort facilities, the truckers, the package car drivers, the airlines, the schedulers. They handle logistics, warehouses, and such for companies. UPS is a huge, huge company, and they do an excellent job. And tonight, we have here Rich Hansen, Robert Hambeck, and also Jane, and they work for UPS, and they have a few words they'd wish to say, and Jane Updahl from Senator Heidkamp's office. So if you would please come forward.
Just very briefly, we're very proud to be here tonight. It's wonderful to be here and to see all of you and these families that have been helped tonight. And just so from a company standpoint, we're grateful to be a part of this. Personally, what a pleasure it is to come to an event like this and get to hear about faith. I'm grateful for your example. Thank you.
Unlike Bill, I work in Bismarck and Dickinson office. I don't get to have an office that flies all the way across the country, so I'm a little envious, but I do have a little bit more seniority than Bill. But on behalf of UPS and the UPS Foundation, I have a grant for Farm Rescue and for Bill and his company and his group. And I'm like Farm Rescue, we do a lot of volunteer work. We're highly, highly motivated, have hundreds of employees around this, or thousands around this place, that volunteer at many different functions, and myself will be getting involved with more Farm Rescue for some of my time. So thank you very much, Bill. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank you for having me here this evening on behalf of Senator Heitkamp. And I'd just like to say thank you to all of you who are here. The work of Farm Rescue is second to none. And actually, I did meet Bill. We were visiting briefly when before the banquet started, and actually the first year Farm Rescue was starting. Bill and I met out by Dodge, North Dakota, because at that time I was working for North Dakota Farmers Union, and one of our farm families was lucky enough to have their assistance in a time of need. So, so it's been about 7 years now that we have seen the wonderful work that Farm Rescue has done, and the wonderful work that all of you do in this room every day, you know, to feed us the best, safest food, and give it your all every single day. And so we're so grateful for that. And Senator Heitkamp wanted me to read a greeting from her on her behalf. So with that, I will say, dear friends, I wish I could be with you tonight at your annual banquet. Farm Rescue is a wonderful organization that helps farm families when they are asking themselves that unexpected question: how are we going to get this done? It is simply amazing to see what this organization has done over the past 7 years. Farm Rescue has assisted over 240 families by providing the necessary equipment and manpower to plant or harvest crops free of charge. What a relief to those families who have experienced a major injury, illness, or natural disaster. Wow, another amazing part of Farm Rescue is all the sponsors, the individual pledges, and over 500 volunteers who give both financial and hands-on support. Please accept my personal thank you for helping our neighbors who are our friends, who feed the world through the land they plant and the crops that they harvest. Best wishes for a wonderful evening that celebrates that great idea of founder Bill Gross, who wanted to be a random Good Samaritan, just buy a big John Deere tractor and go around planting crops for families who could use the help. Wow, what an idea that was planted like seeds and continues to grow stronger each year. Have a great evening. Sincerely, Heidi. Heidi Heidkamp, United States Senate. So with that, again, I'm so happy and proud to be here on behalf of Senator Heidkamp and look forward to seeing you for the rest of this great evening.
Thank you. There is another UPS employee here, which I'm going to have stand. Christina, if you would stand. So I forgot to mention it earlier. So Christina Larson there, and Christina is a Boeing 757 first officer for UPS, and Jeff there is a pilot for Frontier, like we mentioned. So, and they both volunteer for Farm Rescue. So thank you. Imagine that, a two-pilot family, you know, and they have two little children also, and so they're both going different directions, and I'm sure it's quite a challenge, but they do a good job at it, and still find the time to come and volunteer, and they live in Minneapolis. So thank you again. Now we have a guest here that was completely unexpected. Apparently, my staff knew about it, and I did not. And you know, my staff is the best team I've ever had, and they quite a bunch of practical jokers sometimes. But this time here, there was someone driving from far, far away, coming here that I least expected until a couple hours ago walked in the door, and I would like to welcome Chet Peterson. Please come up here, Chet. Chet contacted me, oh boy, it's been probably about 3 years ago now, and he says, Bill, we are so, come on up, Chet, and just stand here alongside here. Chet contacted me 3 years ago. He's from Quincy, Washington, and out there they heard all about Farm Rescue out in Washington State, and he says, you know, Bill, he says, I run a nonprofit organization. He's spearheaded it with some other people, but he's done a lot of work, of course, on it. It's been going on for 30 years. It's called Farmer Consumer Awareness Days. And it's a big event out in Quincy, Washington, where the farmers come and the consumers, and they all come together, and it's quite a day. And they have entertainment, they have various things going on. And he says, Bill, he says, our board met, and we chose you as our honorary farmer of the year. And would you come out and speak? And so I did, and I was pleasantly surprised. And they treated me like a king out there, of course. And but Chet is a very humble man, and has built up that Farmer Consumer Awareness Days with his board and volunteers also. In many ways, just a different aspect of Farm Rescue. It raises awareness and is very, very good. And then just this last year, he says, we'd like you to come out and speak again, Bill. So I was out there just in September and did some speaking for them, and was pleasantly welcomed again also. So Chet walked in the door a couple hours ago. Unbeknownst to me, I look around my shoulder, and there he is. I had to take a double take. I'm like, wait, Chet is in Quincy, Washington. He can't drive 1,000 miles to get here, but he did. And so, welcome, Chet.
Thank you, Bill. You know, it is truly heartwarming to me to see the families give the testimonials that were helped through a very admirable cause. And I've told Bill on numerous occasions, particularly when he's visited our community now twice, that this is totally and truly a humanitarian cause. And I got nothing but the highest accolades for what you people do. The volunteers, the supporters, the equipment company, it's wonderful that you get in and help farm families in crisis. We started a organization nearly 30 plus years ago in Quincy, Washington, that our goal was to showcase farming at the grassroots level. Because some people, it's not all together in suburbia either, I'm not complaining about that, but we've coined the phrase Farmer Consumer Awareness Day. And so we're bringing people in contact with ourselves, and it's a reciprocal relationship. So we got something to learn from the consumers, so to speak. They've got something to learn from us, and it's worked very well. It's been 30 plus consecutive years. And on behalf of our Farmer Consumer Committee, my friend Larry Williamson that actually drove 1,125 miles to bring us to this great state. I've never been here before. I've never been to Bismarck. But on behalf of our Farmer Consumer Committee in Quincy, Washington, I have a presentation for Bill and all the effort that's been put forth by your Farm Rescue Organization.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chet. Thank you. God bless you, Chet. He is just a strong proponent of farm rescue out there on the West Coast, and I think if he could travel around the United States and talk about farm rescue and Farmer Consumer Awareness Days, he'd just be in heaven there. And thank you very much, Chet. Now we have Sherry Schaefer to if you'd come up, please. And she is going to speak about the Farm Rescue Foundation and what the Farm Rescue Foundation does and some of the families we've helped this year. So please welcome Sherry Schaefer.
Thank you, Bill. I think we're all familiar with Farm Rescue. That's the reason we're here tonight. But there's another organization out there called the Farm Rescue Foundation. Farm Rescue, as you know, plants and harvests crops for families coping with an illness, injury, or natural disaster. It provides hands-on assistance in the field when a farmer's income is at risk. But there's a separate organization, which is the foundation, that helps the families who are recovering from the aftermath of an injury, illness, or natural disaster. And that, of course, is called the Farm Rescue Foundation. The mission of this organization is to help those in rural communities improve their quality of life and be able to remain on the farm after an injury has threatened their livelihood there. This organization is also sponsored by grants, or it's funded by sponsors and grants and donations. Tonight we'd like to thank New Seed, who many of you may know as Seed 2000. New Seed has donated $3,000 worth of seeds specifically for the use of the Farm Rescue Foundation. And we have with us tonight Jed Wall, who is a national sales manager, Kelly Clary, who's a territory manager, and Don Rasaki, who is a warehouse manager. And I don't know where they're at, but I'd like for them to stand or raise their hand. There they are. So thank New Seed. They've donated seed over here, and it's on the commodity auction. And they'd like to see it be put to use with the foundation to help more people. Some of the people that we've have helped this year is Don Wilcox. Don Wilcox is from Carson, North Dakota. He had nerve damage that impacted his fine motor skills. He applied to Farm Rescue, and we provided a gate opener for him so that he could get his tractors in and out of the fields and still be part of the farm operation. Brett Kakali from Landon, North Dakota, suffered from a stroke. Farm Rescue helped him in 2011. He applied to the Farm Rescue Foundation in the past year, and we provided him with 2 electric tarp openers and 2 hopper bottom openers so that he could continue to assist with the farm operations. Russell Carlson is from Jamestown, North Dakota. He was paralyzed from the waist down and a paraplegic due to a ladder that broke when he was repairing tin on the top of his shed. Farm Rescue harvested for him in 2011, and this past year he applied to the Farm Rescue Foundation, and we provided a tractor lift for him so that he could continue farming operations. I had the privilege of meeting with Russell yesterday, and I walked into his house, and he's got a big picture window looking out over his fields. And I said, "How long have you lived here on this farm?" He said, "Well, I'm a week short of 65 years old, so I've been here 64 years and 10 months. So that's been his life. And I asked him how hard it was to sit there for the last 2 or 3 years and watch things go on while he sat there in the house. And he could barely speak. And I said, "What has this tractor lift meant to you?" And he just said, "Tears. That's all I can say." He said, "I can go out there now, I can ride in the tractor. I never thought I'd get to do that again." And he can't do a lot of the operations that would require you to get out of the tractor, like if a sprayer nozzle was plugged on a sprayer. But some of the operations that he does, the mowing and little field work, he can still be a part of his family farm. Another person that we've helped in this past year has been Nathan and Alyssa Lyer. They were diagnosed with Friedreich's ataxia, which is a neuromuscular disorder. Farm Rescue assisted them in 2008 and again in 2011. This past year, they applied to the Farm Rescue Foundation, and we provided them with an Action Track wheelchair, which you can see at the back of the room. There's a model over there, and there's one over there too. This wheelchair allows the person to stand up, and actually it's a standing chair, where the other one is a seated chair. It's hard to get around a farm in a regular wheelchair, and these chairs with tracks on them provide them that mobility they need to get around and be a part of the farm. I don't think there's anybody here that could tell the story better himself than Nathan. So Nathan, I'd like you to come up here.
Thank you, Sherry.
You're welcome.
My mom and dad and sister wouldn't come up today, so you're not getting off the leash. So stand up. With me are my mom, Ross, my dad, Larry, and my sister, Alyssa. Now, I've always heard that the secret to a good speech was to start out with something of specific interest to the audience. So, okay, just to let you know, all of the cars in the parking lot have been towed. Another thing that I like to start speeches with is a few facts. A bushel of wheat yields 42 loaves of white bread, or 90 loaves of whole wheat bread. The average American will eat 79.5 loaves of bread each year, and a little over 9 seconds, that amount of grain needed to produce 79.5 loaves is harvested. So the time we adjust the radio to our liking on the combine and push the auto steer button, we have harvested enough wheat to satisfy one person's bread appetite for 1 year. Yeah, pretty impressive numbers. But more impressive is the amount of farmers helped through Farm Rescue over the years. Since Bill's thought of Farm Rescue formation in 2005, greater than 250 families have been helped. Back in the fall of 2008, I was scheduled to have back surgery in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Right around that time, my dad had a feeling that the wheat crop was going to be ready to combine. So my dad applied with Farm Rescue. They showed up at the farm when I was gone, and when we got home from surgery and recovery, the entire crop was harvested. I never got to meet any of the volunteers that time, but my brother told me about the harvest. Alyssa, my sister, was diagnosed with the same disease that I have in the spring of 2011. Farm Rescue came again to help us plant. This time we got to meet everyone and hang out between the rain delays. Even Bill came into the house to visit with us kids and told us stories of his times flying for UPS and growing up. We all enjoyed getting to know everyone during this time. Everyone in our family is very thankful for what Farm Rescue did for us, and we'll never forget all the volunteers and everyone that helped us from Farm Rescue. I have a neuromuscular condition called Friedreich's ataxia, which weakens my muscles and coordination. As my disease progressed, it became harder to walk. Eventually, I got these set of wheels. Earlier this year, I was watching the Farm Rescue Banquet on YouTube. I heard Bill say something about the Farm Rescue Foundation and what it does. After contacting Bill about the foundation, I chose to submit an application letter to get help purchasing an Action Track wheelchair. This wheelchair is a lot like others, but it is driven by tracks instead of wheels. In addition to tracks, the wheelchair puts me in the standing position while allowing me to drive. I tested one of these track chairs out to make sure that it is something that would work for me. And like my sister said, I was grinning the entire time I was driving it. Usually when I drive a wheelchair, I want to see how fast it goes. But this time the speed didn't matter because I was standing. It felt so awesome to do that again. This track chair will allow me to get where I want to go, especially in the snowy winter and muddy springs without getting stuck. Standing up will allow me to do and reach many things that I couldn't before. The wheelchair that I drive now is not made for the outdoors. If there is a little uneven ground, snow or soft ground, it gets high centered right away and ends in me calling for help. During the winter, I am usually limited to the area in our house or on the driveway because my wheelchair will get stuck in the snow. One time last winter, my brother Aaron needed help working on the GPS and the tractor. There was too much snow on the ground to drive over to the shed, so he put the pellet fork on the Bobcat and carried me over to the shed on the fork. We have to get pretty creative sometimes. And I am not willing to give up on the things that I love just because I can't get around the farm. Some of my favorite activities on the farm include hunting deer, fishing in the creek, and driving our UTV around with our dog, Roxy, by my side. My ultimate favorite thing to do on the farm is be a part of and try to help out on the farm and being a part of the farming operation whenever possible. I have a passion to farm. After all, it's in my blood. And I try to help whenever possible. Every once in a while, Aaron will lift me into the tractor or combine to help out. Although he probably won't let me combine anymore because this fall during spring wheat harvest, the combine started on fire, and just because I was behind the wheel, I get all the blame. But when I do get to help out, the feeling of being a farmer is the best in the world. I think that this chair will help me to be more involved on the farm, from getting to those tasks that are higher to just getting to the shop to help out the best that I can. I know this chair will help me do a lot of things I can't do with my current wheelchair. In conclusion, thanks again to everyone who makes Farm Rescue and the Farm Rescue Foundation possible. Without the many volunteers and sponsors, none of this would be possible. And as the saying goes, keep calm and farm on.
I want to thank the spouses of the volunteers. I mean, we thank the volunteers profusely, and could the spouses of the volunteers stand up? And let's give them a round of applause here. So thank you. Yeah, good job. Good job, Lincoln. And so thank you very much to the spouses, because their spouses are away from home for many days, and I know that's trying on families. There is another volunteer here that I can't believe I forgot to mention. He's a UPS pilot, and you noticed him up here earlier. It was Randy Weaver. Randy, stand on up. Randy is a thank you, Randy. Randy is a Boeing 767 captain and has worked for UPS longer than I have. And not only has he volunteered a long time, he enlisted his dad and his uncle. So that was Bill and Dick Weaver there. So they come all the way from Pennsylvania, if you remember. So thank you, Randy and Bill and Dick. And then we have one other guest here, which is completely unexpected. We have Beth Hill. And she came from Nashville, Tennessee. Beth, stand up. There. Now, the reason I mention it, I find it amazing. She is not a volunteer. She's not a sponsor. She's never been to any one of our events. She just heard about it and came all the way from Nashville because she wanted to come to a farm rescue banquet. Now, we have one more family I would like to say a few words. I didn't realize they were going to be here tonight, but they're very good individuals. If Kenton and Autumn Hoffert could come forward, please.
I was diagnosed with myelodysplastic syndrome back in September of last year, so it's been a little over a year ago. Which many of you probably don't know that it's almost like leukemia, but it's kind of pre-leukemia. So I went through the process of preparing for a bone marrow transplant, which is really the only cure for that disease, which took place on April 9th of this last year at Mayo Clinic. It involved heavy doses of chemo, and then 9 days later, a bone marrow transplant. During that time, I obviously knew that I was not going to be able to put my crop in. I found out about Farm Rescue, or read about Farm Rescue quite a few years ago. They had pamphlets at the FSA office that while I was waiting to meet with the gals at the office, I picked one up and read it and was fascinated by it, not thinking I'd ever need it or use it. But so this year, when I realized that I was not going to put a crop in by myself and didn't want to have to depend on neighbors, like many of you said, my wife and I both came to the conclusion that we needed to contact Farm Rescue. So we did. It was a very easy process, signing up online, and met with Farron, which found out, I didn't even realize he worked for Farm Rescue, but I've known him for quite a few years, known his parents for quite a few years. So there was an instant connection with that. But I am personally so thankful for what Farm Rescue did. And in coming here tonight, we were able to meet all 4 volunteers that put my corn in. My son was home. He's in the military, but he was off at that time, so he was able to coordinate things for us. And he informed me while we were harvesting this fall that most of that corn was planted at night in the dark. And I confirmed that tonight with the volunteers, what happened and why they literally went for 2 solid nights, all night long, planting. And like other places, we had a very short, narrow window to plant corn. It started raining right after they finished. And so without their help, I would not have harvested a tremendous crop this fall, which was such a blessing. But the greatest blessing of all was I was at Mayo Clinic, underwent the transplant, which was at this point a huge success. They normally tell you you'll stay 100 days, prepare to stay 100 days. We pulled our daughter. We have a 10-year-old daughter who finished her last quarter of the 4th grade in Rochester at a school there. So we were able to stay together as a family in Rochester. They sent me home at day 55 because I was doing so well, and had a few complications since then with GVHD, which is normal, coming off of the immune suppressant drugs a little too rapidly, but doing very well and very thankful. On my July checkup when I was back, they declared me cancer-free, and I am so humbled. And thankful to God for volunteers that stepped up to the plate. Farm Rescue planted all my corn. I had neighbors that came in and planted beans, volunteered to spray crops. And to experience that as a farmer is humbling and such a blessing. And I'm just so thankful. Also thankful to my son who he informed me he had about 10 hours of sleep that week trying to keep the land prepared and the chemical down after a 24-row planter. So you guys did amazing.
I was not raised on a farm. I didn't know the first thing about farming when I met Kenton, but we will have been married 12 years December 1st, and one of the things that I've learned is when a farmer can't get his crop in, things get a little tense. And when a farmer can't harvest, things really get tense. So as a farm wife, I ran an ag business for years. I understand the importance of corporate support. And so for all of you who support Farm Rescue and what that means, I understand the value of that as a former business owner, and I appreciate how you fill in that gaps and fill in that piece of the puzzle. And also thank you to the volunteers. We're very anxious to meet them tonight. Like Kenton said, we couldn't have a crop without you, and we really appreciate the time and the effort that you put in to support us as well as the other farmers who are here. Thank you.
Nathan, we're drawing for the Alaska trip here, so everyone have their tickets out. Those little coupons you were given, you got to have that out. Okay. Come on up here. Come on up here, Autumn and Kenton. Okay, so tell me what's the chances of that happening. Okay. So come on up, and so you are the winners of the Alaska trip, and tell us what you think of that, or if you've ever been to Alaska or whatever.
I have to answer this question. My first year of teaching, I taught in a bush village in Alaska. I was 100 miles east of Nome in a little tiny village called Elam, and it was one of the stops on the Iditarod Trail, and we were. We didn't get a whole lot of stopovers at our little village because the next village over was White Mountain, and it was a required 8-hour stop at that next village. So a lot of times the mushers would just come through and wave on the Norton Sound on their way by. But yeah, that's really cool.
We have wanted to go back to Alaska as one of our dreams because she's been there and she's wanted me to experience it. I've never been there. So this is just blows me away.
Kenton took me to Hawaii for our honeymoon, and I told him that he had to take me someplace else exotic. I got to fill this in. There's a large age gap between us. And I told him that he had to take me someplace exotic because wheelchairs don't push very well in sand, so we'll see how well we do in snow.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Nathan. Alyssa, while you're up here, so Alyssa is Nathan's sister, and also, yeah, we better check the numbers here, shouldn't we? I'm sure, if everyone else was honest, this is good. So, okay, so Alyssa also has Friedreich's ataxia, and I met her when we came to help there. Do you want to say anything to anyone, Alyssa?
I just want to thank everybody from the bottom of our whole family's hearts. You know, being a farmer, it's very important, but our family's the most important thing, and when Farm Rescue came, we got to be a family together, and that's something that we'll have forever, and Farm Rescue means so much to us, all you, every single person in here. You changed our lives forever, and thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, yeah, you can go. Oh, you're gonna head over that way, okay. So, thank you, Daniel. So,